Okay, so today we can talk a little bit about Ratha yatra, because Sudeep has asked me to do that. That's exactly the perfect time, because today is Ratha yatra in Puri, so it's a Ratha yatra special. Now, Ratha yatra is a very general definition, because so many people can have different Ratha yatras. Also, different days with different symbols and everything. So, for example, even politicians have their own Ratha yatras. So you take one politician, you put him on the cart, and you go around, and then you have Ratha yatra. But the Ratha yatra of Jagannatha in Puri is special, because it's most famous and most important, and it's done. It is celebrated at a particular time during the year that is about the end of the summer and the beginning of the rainy season. So there is a connection with the story of Rishashinga. Maybe you heard about Rishashinga? No. He was Rishi.
I think in Ram's story we have his mention, right?
Uh,
In Ram's story, I think, right?
yeah,
Before his.
actually, yes, because that is connected with some, in Ramayana there are lots of other stories. But basically, the idea is that the celebration of the end of the summer, the end of the drought, the dry period, the hot period, the suffering period, when we have the rains coming to the land and cooling up the people and giving new life to plants and animals. Everybody is happy. So Rishashinga Muni is mentioned both in Ramayana and Mahabharata. So he was the the name actually refers to the fact that he was born with the horns of a deer. But because he was born with the horn, in any way, because Shringa means horn. Sometimes he's also called Eka Shringa, because like a unicorn, one horn only. Now, the story is that he was born from Vibhanda, Karishi, and Urvashi. So he decided to stay isolated from society. So his son Rishashinga never saw anyone else. So he didn't even know about the existence of females. So because he was very focused on brahmacharya, he was extremely powerful. So there was a story that King Romapada, who was the king of Anga, which is Bengal, modern day Bengal, was having some problems because there was no rain for a long time. So Romapada sent some ladies of the court to invite Rishashinga, and he became the acharya in the in the yagya that Romapada performed, so that brought the rain. So there are some Patachitra paintings, traditional Oriya paintings, that depict this story, because the idea of the coming of the rain is so important in monsoon, affected regions. And a very similar ceremony is still performed in Nepal, and it is more clearly connected to Indra and the rain. And here we can see the connection between the story of Rishashinga and the Ratha yatra of Jagannath. Because if you go and see the Indra yatra in Nepal, it is done in another period, it's done at the end of the rainy season. But still Indra is the center of attention. So, Raghunath, I'm in a meeting. I call you back. Okay. So, what happened is that during the Indra Yatra, which is a very long ceremony, a very long ritual, very similar to the Ratha Yatra in Jagannath Puri. The devotees, the priest choose a big tree, and they make a Daru Brahman out of it. And this big tree, this pole, is taken to represent Indra. So we have references to the Indra Yagya in all the ancient stories, traditions, scriptures, and everything. We have, for example, if you have read the Bhagavata Purana, we see the Indra Yatra was celebrated by the people of Vrindavan. It's about the time of Govardhana Puja. So they take this pole, they take this tree, they make a pole, which is worshipped as Indra. Then they put the pole on a chariot, they decorate with a lot of garlands, clothes, ornaments, and everything. And the front of the chariot is Kalabhairava, the face of Kalabhairava, that is practically the same as Nishingadeva. And in Nishingadeva we know that Nishinga is the original deity of Puri, and whenever all the pujaris, all the sevakas in Puri are initiated with Nishinga Mahamantra, which is Ugram Viram Mahavishnun Jalantan Sarvatomukham Nishingam Vishanam Bhadram Mrityum Namamyaham. So Nishingadeva is so important in Puri and in the worship of Jagannath in Puri that Maharaj Indradyumna installed the deity of Nishinga before he installed the original deities of Jagannath. So the Ratha Yatra of Jagannath in Puri is commemorating the return of Jagannath to his birthplace. So it's called Gundicha Vijaya because the deities are going to Gundicha. Now the major deities, Jagannath, Baladeva, Subhadra, and Sudarshan, leave the temple, the Shri Mandir, the Jagannath temple, at the one end of Grand Road. They are carried on the chariots, and the chariots are pulled to the through the all the grand road, the Baladanda, until till they reach the temple on the opposite extremity, the opposite end of Grand Road, which is Gundicha. Gundicha is not technically a temple because for the rest of the year it is closed. I mean, closed in the sense it's empty. There are no deities in Gundicha, no resident deities. It's just called Gundicha Ghar, means the house of Gundicha. And the house of Gundicha for the Vaishnavas represent Vrindavan. So when Jagannath is seen as Krishna, and Balabhadra is seen as his brother Balaram, and Subhadra is seen as their sister Yogamaya, Subhadra Yogamaya, who was actually born in in Goloka, in Gokula. They all go to Vrindavan and stay for some days. They stay for 9 days. So the festival in 10 days, when at the end they go back to their usual place in the Sri Mandir. In the ceremony it's called Ratha yatra or Niladri Vijay. So the Ratha yatra or Gundicha Vijay comes at the end of a cycle that starts with the Chandan Yatra. Practically it's the beginning of the summer. The summer is a very difficult time in places where it's already hot. So in the Chandan Yatra the deities are covered with sandalwood paste. This is actually, especially with the smaller deities, the Chalanti Pratima, the Utsava Vigraha, the festival deities. So, because they go every day, every night, morning and evening, they go to the Narendra Sarovar in Puri, Jagannath Puri, and they have their boat ride. They go around, and then they get their, they get a special bathing ceremony. There is a small pavilion at the center of the lake, and lots of people go and have fun, and especially children are also swimming in the Sarovara. They go around. There's a lot of fun for everyone. Lots of people go. Now, at the end of the Chandana Yatra, there is the Snana Yatra. The Snana Yatra is the bathing not only of the Chalanti Pratima, but of the big deities. So this bathing that is performed on this particular occasion of Snana Yatra is the Raja Abhishek of Jagannath, because this is considered the birthday celebration of Jagannath. Now, during the Vedic times, there was this Raja Abhishek, especially in particular occasions, and in this case, on the occasion of the birthday of the king, and there was a public bath. The king was bathed in public with a lot, holy water and very auspicious substances and everything. So this is done for Jagannath because this is the day, Snana Yatra is considered the day when Jagannath was first installed by Indradyumna Maharaj, King Indradyumna. Now, after this Snana Yatra, we have 2 weeks of isolation, during which the deities, the main deities, are repainted, fixed and repainted. So this period is called Anavasara. Anavasara is a time when people are not allowed to have the darshan of the main deities, But instead, the darshan is given by the Patadiya, which is the paintings of Jagannatha, Baladev and Subhadra, but in their forms of Vishnu, Shiva and Lakshmi. Then and also people also go to have the darshan of Nishinga, that is still present in the back of the Garbhagriha of the main deities. And they also go to another temple a few kilometers away, on the way to Brahmagiri, and that temple is called Alarnath. It is a temple of Vishnu, which is also very, very ancient. Now, at the end of the Anavasara period, there is the Navayovana Darshana. The day before, the night before the Ratha yatra, the deities give darshan again with their new, fresh youth, because they're being renewed. They're, they have become rejuvenated. Then the next morning, the chariot journey starts. Now, why it is important to connect the Ratha yatra of Jagannath in Puri with the Indra yatra in Nepal and the story of Rishashinga and Romapada? Because it is a royal festival. Jagannath is the king of Puri, the king of Orissa. And the Gajapati Maharaj is considered his younger brother. So in Puri, Jagannath is the king. So he has this royal Abhishek on Snana Yatra, and on his to celebrate his birthday, as soon as he's ready to go, he's going to his birthplace, which is Gundicha, which is the place where King Indradyumna installed the deities of Jagannath the first time, according to tradition. Now, next to Gundicha, near Gundicha, there is the Indradyumna Sarovara. The Indradyumna Sarovara is one of the most ancient places in Puri. And also just attached to Gundicha, just outside Gundicha, there is a very old temple that has been rebuilt again and again. That is the Adi Nishinga temple, which is the most important temple of Nishinga in Puri. There are many temples of Nishinga in Puri, but this one is the most important because it's the temple where the presiding deity of Indradyumna's Yagya was installed. Then the temple of Gundicha, the building of Gundicha itself was built much later. Then the Indradyumna Sarovara, we can say that it is very old because it's way below the level of the road. We know that in archaeology there is a phenomenon of layering of debris that can give us approximately the age, the antiquity of a place. Now in Puri there are a few of these deep places under the road level, and Indradyumna Sarovar is one. At the end, there are also some very quite important temples on the way to Indradyumna Sarovara, between Gundicha and Indradyumna Sarovara, but at the entrance, just on the same level of the lake, on the steps that are just next to the Sarovara, we find two very important but small shrines. Unfortunately, the traditional knowledge has been lost. So instead of the original names of Matsya Madhava and Bhuvaneshwari, to whom these two small temples were dedicated, now the Pujari say that these are Indradyumna and his wife Gunditcha. But it is a little difficult to explain how Indradyumna has a form of Vishnu with 4 arms, and Gunditcha, the wife of the king, is standing while Vishnu and Shiva are worshipping her feet. So, if you show these vigrahas to anyone without telling them that they are Indradyumna and Gunditcha, everybody will tell you this is Nila Madhava or Matsya Madhava and Bhuvaneshwari. So, the fact that we write the names of Indradyumna and Gunditcha are just, to make things easier for people. Now, Madhava is a very ancient concept in Hinduism, in Vedic tradition, in the deity worship tradition. The original name of Jagannath, as you may know, is Nila Madhava. And still today, there is in the summer Navaratri. The Navaratris are 4 actually. People usually know about the Sharadiya Navaratri, which is in autumn, October, November. But there is another Navaratri that is the spring Navaratri, Basanta Navaratri. And then there are 2 more Navaratris, because these are the times of the equinoxes and solstices. So on the occasion of the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices, there were Navaratri celebrations. So the one for the summer solstice, that is about the time of Ratha yatra, of Jagannath, Durga and the small deity of Jagannath, who is standing on the external wall of the temple usually, together with Durga, they go on Ratha yatra together. This is called Gupta Navaratri. It's not the secret Navaratri, because it's not very publicized. They go and then they come back practically just one day before the Jagannatha Ratha yatra. Then different people, different groups see Jagannath under different perspectives, because this is the beauty of Hinduism. We can have different perspectives and they're not contradictory. So the Vaishnavas, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who are very strongly attached to Jagannath and Puri, because Chaitanya was a great devotee of Jagannath, and practically Bengal is very closely connected to Orissa. The devotees of Krishna, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas especially, see Jagannath as Krishna, Balabhadra as Balaram, and Subhadra as the sister of Krishna, Balaram. So they go to Vrindavan, they have their reunion with the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So during Ratha yatra, Chaitanya was always very ecstatic. He was participating every time in a very ecstatic mood, and his greatest, most important event of the year was Ratha yatra. For Ratha yatra, all the friends and relatives of Chaitanya and his companions would come from Bengal to Puri, which was a very popular pilgrimage, very popular yatra. Still today, if you go and see, in the Howrah station in Calcutta, there is one track, practically speaking, one platform that is dedicated to the trains up and down from Puri. And I don't know how many trains they have now, but they used to have at least 4 to 5 trains daily, if not more. And those direct from Calcutta to Puri. Then there were other trains, but the point is that people from Calcutta were very closely connected to Puri. Not only because of Chaitanya, but because of more ancient connections. Let's remember that King Romapada was the king of Bengal. So Bengal and Jagannath, you cannot divide them. Another, I thought you saw the meeting. Dopo. Okay, I think I should switch off my phone, but it's okay. So, what is the connection between Bengal, Nepal, and Orissa? This is interesting. When the temple of Puri was destroyed and abandoned, and the deities had been hidden, so during most probably during one particular invasion by barbarians, by Yavanas, the Yavana Raktabahu means bloody arm, bloody arms. So it looks like there's some kind of pirates. That was probably 1500 years before the current year. So during that was the end of the Bronze Age, that is considered the collapse of the ancient civilizations in the Mediterranean. Probably you heard about the sea peoples who migrated south and west, probably also east, because of some climate change. So these sea peoples, they went everywhere, they destroyed and pillaged and killed and everything. So much that they caused the previous civilizations of the Mediterranean to collapse. So that was about 1500 BCE. So probably this invasion by Raktabahu was in the same period. So all the coast was practically abandoned, and the deities of Jagannath had been buried, hidden by burying them. Now burying them, it is not clear if it was in an underground cave or if it was, just a simple burial under some soil. But when Adi Shankar went to find out Purushottama Kshetra, there was nothing. So he went to King Yayati Keshari. Yayati means Yajati means Yagya. He was famous for his work to re-establish the Vedic civilization in Orissa. So Yayati Keshari was based on Jajpur or Yagipur, the city of the Yagyas, which is very much like Prayag in further north along the Triveni. So at that time, Adi Shankar went to Yayati Keshari, and they went to dig up the deities, but the deities' bodies were damaged. So Yayati Keshari and Adi Shankar organized to rebuild the Jagannath temple much before the present structure. The present structure was built several hundred years later. We are talking about the previous temple of Jagannath, built by Yayati Keshari, that is not visible anymore because it's lost. The new temple, I think, made by Narasingha III, was built on the site of the previous temple. Anyway, so Adi Shankara organized the Navakalevara ritual for shaping the new deities from Daru Brahman, and then sent a disciple to Nepal to ask help from the king of Nepal, because in Nepal there was still the tradition of Ratha yatra as Indra yatra, Ratha yatra, and the Daru Brahman. So one of the main deities during the Indra yatra, apart from the pole, which is obviously made of wood, of the tree, it's also the other deity that is made of wood that goes together with the Indra, the pole of Indra, is Bhanumati. She is a Daru Brahman deity that shows Durga. So we have Durga Madhava. We know that Indra is a representation of Madhava, which is Harihara. Indra is the material representative of God, because the king in ancient times was a representative of Indra, who in turn is a representative of Vishnu and Shiva. Now, the story of Madhava. Madhava means the consort of the mother. So it is a name that applies both to Vishnu and Shiva. And in fact, we see it demonstrated in the form of Harihara. The form of Harihara is so important all over the very ancient Hindu tradition. We find the deities of Harihara installed in Bengal. The Lingaraj temple is dedicated to Harihara. In fact, it is so dedicated to Harihara that the pujakas, the sevakas, offer both tulsi and bilva leaves. And the vahanas of the deity are both Garuda and Nandi. So it is very clear, everybody knows it's a Harihara lingam, and its counterpart, a bit more accessible counterpart, is the lingam in the famous temple of Mukteshwara, which is very near to the Lingaraj temple, but is a separate temple. It's called the Mukteshwara temple complex, and now it's not functional anymore, but it is extremely popular tourist destination. In fact, every year it is chosen to host the main festival for Odissi dance. It is done in the Mukteshwara temple complex. The Mukteshwara temple Torana is featured in all the tourist leaflets of the state of Odisha. So it's very famous, and the Mukteshwara lingam is still there inside the temple. There is some sort of worship going on, but it's for tourists, so it's not a really, traditional thing. But it is very good because it's very easy to see, so very accessible. And you can see that the lingam is split in two. You know, it's two different parts that are different, very distinguishable. So it is explained that this is showing that the deity is Harihara, is both the combined form of Vishnu and Shiva. So the cult of Madhava is the most ancient original Hindu tradition, even more ancient than Nishinga. So Madhava, we find Veni Madhava at Prayag. We find Madhava in all the most ancient, like in Varanasi we have Madhava. In all most ancient holy places in India we find the presence of Madhava. Now, Nila Madhava, as the original form of Jagannath, is also present in the Jagannath temple in Sri Mandir. But Jagannath himself is the present manifestation of Nila Madhava. So Jagannath goes from the Sri Mandir to Gundicha. For the Vaishnavas and the especially Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it is Krishna going back to Vrindavan, so it's a very ecstatic moment. For the Smartas, it is the king, the divine king of Puri performing a journey, going a journey to his birthplace, the place of his installation. And for the Shaktas, it is the Gupta Gundicha festival, which now is only limited to one day before the beginning of the Ratha yatra. Many things have been abandoned and forgotten in the culture of Puri and Orissa. Even if some people there think they are upholding the ancient tradition because they don't admit tomatoes in the kitchens of Jagannath. And they don't want fans in the kitchen because they're electric, they're not traditional. But they're using electric lights, so fans will come. And they totally abandon many very important rituals and traditions. For example, most of the food variety in the food offerings, in Naivedya offerings, has been abandoned. What to speak of the Mahari Seva, the service of the Devadasis? You cannot find one, even who doesn't now with the last one died, the very old one. She died. She was very old. But the Mahari Seva has not been performed for at least 50 years. At least. It was stopped by the British on the pretext that it was indecent. And in fact, it had already been degraded a lot by degraded kings and degraded Muslim governors and everything. But anyway, so we cannot see today what the Ratha yatra was 300, 400 years ago. But there is a connection with Nepal. In Nepal, still for the Indra Yatra, the king of Nepal, who is considered in Jagannath Puri as of the same family of the is brother of the Gajapati Maharaj. So the king of Nepal has the right, the adhikar, to go inside the Garbhagriha of Jagannath at Puri to perform worship. So the king of Nepal in Kathmandu for the Indra Yatra goes around riding an elephant, and here we have again the Gajapati Maharaj was originally the lord of the elephants. Now you cannot find an elephant in Puri, what to speak of in the Ratha yatra. You cannot find an elephant probably for hundreds of kilometers around. But anyway, still some memories there. So we are talking about the Gajapati, and we have a few boys, the Gotipua sometimes, more or less older than the usual age, performing Odissi dance in front of the chariots before they start moving, which is a poor substitute for the Maharis or Devadasis, but okay, what to do. And then we have the Daru Brahman traveling on the chariots in Nepal, in Kathmandu, in the Indra Yatra. It is in the form of the Indrapol and the Bungamati. So the Bungamati is, as we said, the Durga in the Durga Madhava couple. So this is the situation. Now the Ratha yatra also had different aspects when few hundred years ago the Grand Road was crossed by a river. So at that time they used 6 chariots, because you cannot go through the river, you cannot cross the river with a chariot. So there was this halfway the deities were transferred from one set of chariots to the other set of chariots. That place where the river was is called Balisahi. And Balisahi means sand. Bali means sand, because the river, on the recommendation of Ramana, actually on the not Ramananda, Ramanuja's disciple, who was in Puri for a long time. The river was filled with sand, so that's why it's called Balisahi. So other things that were changed considerably was the fact that in ancient times everybody was freely allowed not only to enter the temple of Jagannath, but even to climb over the chariots and actually embrace Jagannath, touch Jagannath. It happened to me in Puri one time that Subhadra decided that I was ready to get on the chariot and going to embrace her, so I was encouraged to do that. But if you see, it's normal today for everyone, as long as they look Indian, they are allowed to get on the chariot and to embrace the deities. Of course, now it stopped because of the COVID. So it doesn't matter if you look Indian or not today, nowadays. So you're generally not allowed. Okay, so kind of interesting turn of events there. But in general, the Ratha yatra is a time when everybody can have the darshan and closed darshan as well. So it goes back to the popular tradition of Jagannath. We know that originally Nilamadhava was worshipped by the Sabara Vishwavasu. Yeah, but you cannot say that on the TV interview in Puri because they think you are doing, you're playing politics. Because of course the administration of the Jagannath temple being controlled by politicians is very caste conscious. So we cannot suggest that the tribals can actually be devotees of Jagannath. That's that politics. Anyway, everybody knows it, but anyway. So this is a general overview of the Ratha Yatra festival. Do you have any specific questions?
No, the full overview I have got. I did know something about it because I am at Calcutta. It is nearby,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Calcutta, that's why.
hmm, and the whole Bengal is also the eastern sector is also
Yeah,
involved with this Ratha Yatra. Is a big festival here,
yeah.
and in everybody's home also there is a Jagannath deity
Yeah.
idol. So we know this program, this festival as a big festival for us in this entire eastern region.
Excellent. Also the interesting thing that the entire eastern region, including Bengal, that was called Anga in ancient times, was prominently a tribal area, tribal
That
region.
Nepal link I did not know.
Yeah.
That was a
Okay.
new
Information.
topic for me.
Yeah.
And as you told, 1500 BC, the invaders came. That also was not known to me. I would like to know more about this ancient history. Who were these invaders? And I thought that there were no invaders for this sector, as like in Somnath temple and other temples, Benares
Oh,
and other temples.
that was later. The Sobhana temple was a problem of Islamic raids, but that was after the starting of Islam was started 700 of this present era, the current era, and it happened. It was destroyed 17 times along the period of the Islamic invasions and dominations, and it was rebuilt 18 times. Yeah.
So I am now I am concerned about this again. Is that going to happen in our lifetime or in the future? Future, I do not know. The situation is not very good.
No, I believe that the same type of destruction of temples that happened in the past due to the Islamists and these barbarians, the Yavanas, is not going to happen at that scale. But we know that, for example, during the Middle Ages, you probably heard about the name of Kalapahara.
Pardon?
Kalapahara? You didn't hear this name?
No.
No.
Pala Pala Pahara.
Kalapahara is very famous in Orissa. They're still scared of him. Kalapahara lived in the Middle Ages. I discussed this subject in my book Puri and the Home of Lord Jagannath. Puri Jagannath. So Kalapahara was actually born as a Hindu in a Brahmin family. But he, as many other Hindus of high families, he believed that, like Raja Mohan Singh, for example, another big one, famous one. He thought that he could get some material benefits from becoming a servant of the Islamic rulers. Other names that come to my mind, like for example in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, are Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, who were very proud of their Brahmin ancestry, but they became servants of the Sultan under the names of Sakara Malik and the other name I don't remember. Rupa and Sanatana got Muslim names. Probably they were circumcised, and because they had to become Muslims, at least nominally, to get some position of power in the Muslim rule. So this Kalapahara, also became a general in the army of the Sultan, just like Raja Mohan Singh. But somehow there was a problem, because he already had a wife, a regular Hindu wife, but the daughter of the Sultan became very attracted to him, so he was, encouraged by the Sultan to marry the princess, the Muslim princess. And for that, of course, he had to become a Muslim and everything. So when Kalapahara came to Puri to ask, because he was a very caste-conscious Brahmin, so he went to Puri and asked the Brahmins of Puri to do the purification, the Shuddhi and Prayashchita Shuddhi ceremonies to purify him and his family. And the Brahmins of the Puri temple just kicked him out. And they treated him very badly. They insulted him and everything. So Kalapahara became so angry that he really became a Muslim. And you can imagine what happened. So for many years, Kalapahara systematically destroyed every single temple in the entire region. And he even took, two, three times they succeeded in hiding the deities of Jagannath. One time in the tunnel, another time in the Sidika lake, another time in Sambalpur. But at the end, Kalapahara was able to capture the deities. So he took them in a mock Ratha yatra to the bank of a river. We don't know exactly. The chronicles of the time speak about the Hooghly Ganga, but it's not, we don't really know for sure. And he hacked the deities to pieces and burned them. And he did the same with practically every other temple in Orissa. He destroyed the temple of Ananta Vasudev, the deities and everything. He destroyed the big temple that was the Jagannath temple was in Cuttack. At that time, before Kalapahara, Bhuvaneshwar was known as the city of 5,000 temples. You go and count how many are working today. The only temple that is working today is Lingaraj. The other big temple in Bhuvaneshwar today is the Ram temple that was built very recently and is functioning very well because it's just next to the headquarters of the BJP North. Otherwise, all the other temples are gone. So, from 5,000 to 1, it's like, okay, something happened here. And all the other temples outside Bhubaneswar, Jajpur, and, all the region was totally devastated. Kalapahada, they still remember him now. So, that's a problem. Because, if the temple Brahmins didn't behave in such a stupid manner, the culture of the temples and the spirituality of Orissa could be in a much better place today. But unfortunately, they're still following the same stupid ideas. So, there have been many cases in which, not only this Jagannath temple will not admit tribals. Even there was a very funny instance in which the police personnel at the gate of the Sri Mandir, the Jagannath temple, sent away the Rajguru of Nepal because he didn't look Hindu enough. So, as we know, the king of Nepal is one of the official sevakas of Sri Mandir in a very high position. What to speak of his guru? So, he was sent away because he was not of Hindu race. He didn't look Hindu enough. Of course, a big story came out, and the police person who was responsible for this huge blunder was suspended or something. But still, it shows that they're still using the same lousy, approach. But anyway, we know that another very famous piece of information about Jagannath and Puri is the Achyutananda Malika. You heard about the Achyutananda Malika, Arunji?
Yes, I heard.
Okay. So the Achyutananda Malika was written around 500 years ago by Achyutananda Das, who was one of the 5 great devotees, Oriya Vaishnavas, the Panchasakas, the 5 friends. And they became so popular in Orissa, around Puri, even their Oriya version of the Bhagavata Purana became so famous that until about 100 years ago, each village had a Bhagavat Tunga, which means the Bhagavata hall, where all the villagers were gathered together in the evening to read the Oriya Bhagavata of one of these Panchasakas. These Panchasakas were also associates of Sri Chaitanya. And Sri Chaitanya honored them. For example, this Jagannath Das, who was the author of this Oriya Bhagavata, was called Atibari by Chaitanya. Chaitanya gave him this title of Atibari, means greatest. And he gave also one garland and everything to show appreciation for the work of this Jagannath Das. So, and Achyutananda was the most famous of the 5 of them. They had also some mystic power, because they were also expert in the genuine tantra, not in the stupid ideas that circulate among many people today that are passed off as tantra. But they were genuine tantrics, and they were genuine devotees of Radha Krishna. And Achyutananda wrote this book of prophecies called the Achyutananda Malika, in which it is said that, about 500 years later, under the reign of Gajapati Divyasingha, which is the name of the present king, the ocean, the Samudra, will rise and Jagannath will go away. And Puri will be submerged, and Jagannath will go away to another place and will choose another place as his residence, because he is tired of the people in Puri. Anyway, we'll see. This is the Achyutananda Malika. This is not something I wrote. I was hoping to get the Achyutananda Malika translated from Moria, but looks like it's not happening anytime soon. We'll see. We'll see in the future. But the other great turning point of the tradition of Jagannatha and Ratha yatra was when the founder of ISKCON, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, went to the United States, went to the West, specifically the United States, and started to preach about Krishna Bhakti. And he was in Los Angeles when one of his students found the deity of Jagannath, Jagannath Vigraha, a small one, on a curious shop in Los Angeles. Exotic art and everything. So this boy purchased the statue and he took the statue to Bhaktivedanta Swami, who said, "Oh, this is Jagannath." And the disciple said, "Jagannath who?" So, Bhaktivedanta Swami asked his disciples to make a bigger copy of the deity, and they organized I think the next proper time, next year, they made the first Ratha yatra in the West, in Los Angeles, California. And the Ratha was a truck, actually, a flatbed truck. And there were not so many people, but it was a very special occasion. And from that time onwards, the descendants of the disciples and descendants of Bhaktivedanta Swami have celebrated Ratha yatra with Jagannath all over the world. Because it's a very, a very interesting event that, people are attracted. This dancing, chanting, chariot parade, it's something that people can relate with very closely, because in fact, this idea of the chariot parade was so universal at global level in ancient cultures that still there are remnants of this culture. For example, we see in South America, we go and see the carnival in Rio. So it's practically a sort of Ratha yatra, but not exactly spiritual. So they have these, they call them floaters, but they're actually chariots that are very decorated, and people go there to dance and sing and celebrate. It's an expression of joy. And in the same way, you go, for example, in South Italy, where the Catholic traditions inculturated the previous religious tradition, and they will still have these small Ratha yatras with the statues of the Mary, the mother of Christ, or this saint or another saint, that are, put on the chariot and in procession they're going. They have decorations, they have singing. They don't have dancing because Catholics are not very happy people. But but some singing is there, some praying, singing like that. The decoration of the images is very gorgeous, is very elaborate. So, and in Greece, also South Greece, they had these icons, they call them icons. The word icon comes from the Greek, which originally meant sacred image. So the tradition was a bit lost during the time when Greece was also under the Islamic domination, and there were a lot of wars and everything, so the tradition got a little bit forgotten. But in South Italy there are still several places that they have this type of Ratha yatra. So basically people all over the world took up this Jagannatha Ratha yatra very eagerly, very happily, and they're still doing it today. Although not usually not at the same time, not at the proper day, because they're calculating. It's a different thing because in temperate areas they don't have the monsoon, so it doesn't really matter much if it is at the beginning of the monsoon, or the end of the monsoon, because there are no monsoon. So usually they do the Ratha yatras in the summer, and they usually choose a Sunday because more people can attend, and it doesn't disrupt commuters, people who actually need to go to work. So when you occupy the road for a big festival, nobody's going to work. So they have, and the Ratha yatras there usually last one day only. Now, there is another famous Ratha yatra in Orissa, and it is the Lingaraj Ratha yatra that happens in Ashoka Astami, which is also not the same period of the Jagannatha Ratha yatra. It's a totally different period. It's just before Ram Navami. The day before Ram Navami is called Ashoka Astami, and that is the Lingaraj Ratha yatra. And the Chalanti Pratima of Lingaraj leaves the temple and goes to Moshima temple, which is not so much in functioning, but still, the travel is there. And then it goes back for Ram Navami. While the Jagannath Puri Ratha yatra is lasting 9-10 days, Lingaraj Ratha yatra lasts 2 days, and usually the ISKCON and the Gaudiya Math Ratha yatras last only 1 day. They don't have the Bahuda yet. Okay, any other question? Anything else we can discuss?
I think you explained in very detail.
A lot.
Thank you.
Was there something that you wanted to? Because I didn't talk about the appearance of Jagannath. Because Ratha yatra is not particularly the story of the origin of Jagannath. It's the story of the journey of Ratha yatra. So, okay, you can, if you have time, you can have a look at my book, Puri, the Home of Lord Jagannath.
Or maybe, in our next session, we can discuss on that.
Sure, we can do that, of course. Jagannath, Jagannath is my Ishtadeva.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay then, thank you so much.
Okay then, closing for today.
Closing for today, and Jai Jagannath. Thank you.
Jai Jagannath. Thank you.
Jai.